Three, two, one, youtube.com, Jamestown, California. We're going to talk about the George Floyd politics of this case. And I'm a little bit concerned because the way Brian Williams and MSNBC today did that broadcast, I'm not sure what world Brian lives in. Now, there's a couple of things that are a little incorrect about all of this. Number one, watching Fox News today after the reruns, it's starting to become unwatchable during the day on this case, the way that so many personalities, with or without credentials, it really doesn't matter in 2021 anymore. The fact that not anyone until Ed on the Tucker Carlson show today, the man was cuffed. And that's it. The rest of the topics and things are not relevant. The man was cuffed and the other man put his knee on his neck for 9 minutes. Once the man is cuffed, that's it. So that's my concern, is how did that happen, knowing that policing where I'm at in Southern California, that would never have happened. Once a man is cuffed, the officers would have probably gotten up and just watched him on his belly and then talked amongst each other, cop talk. But to have a man put his knee on another man's neck for 10 minutes while other people are watching, I think there's a little bit more to this than we're being told. And I'm going to start looking into this because I think there's other elements of this entire case that just are very suspicious during the 2020 campaign. Number one. Number two, the fact that there was no plea bargain given, although the bar justice denied that. And in any circumstance, that would have been offered. And the fact that there was a trial, that should have never happened in the first place if a plea would have occurred before the trial. So two things I'm questioning. Number one, once the man is cuffed, that's it. That's it. There's no dispute. There's no talking about the $20 bill. But there are things that we do need to talk about, is if there was some form of setup, because George did seem to be a little bit, I wouldn't call it paranoid, but afraid of something. And I'm not sure if it was the drugs that were making him afraid of something, or if he was aware of some crooked stuff going on in the city where enforcement and crooks were working together and he was part of that shebang. And it happens all the time. Something that's not being pointed out, that there's a lot of corruption in these cities, and a lot of times these guys are fall guys. And that's what it looks like to me, because the man was cuffed. The man was cuffed. So the man should have been given a medical attention right away, and there should have not been that knee for 10 minutes. So why did the officer do that? What's kind of bizarre about the whole situation to me was that was a topic that I wanted to get into right before it happened on Los Angeles Sheriff's Department cases that I was looking into, that I thought that excessive use of force happened because I was aware of what was going on down in Los Angeles County out of personal experience. And I wanted to start addressing that issue. And as soon as either the word got out that you knew that I was going to address that issue, that happened. And that happens a lot in the news that I want to cover. So this BS about credentials, I want to start off by saying that the Sean Hannity show was the only decent, informative show that I was able to really understand and tune in fully in a 60 minutes on this case. I did watch half of Fox News Night, but it was the second half. But when I started to watch the reruns and early part of the day and hearing guests talk about their opinions for the last couple days, it's almost been unwatchable on all the channels, everyone's opinions, because this is a situation that a man like me who does not have credentials other than I've been in the workforce since 1986. I have the solutions and have already produced and published the solutions, but because no one cares about promoting an individual that is single, what's happening is they only promote the people that they want to promote. And if those people don't have anything to produce, then we have absolutely nothing to have. That's what's happening, in my opinion. I don't want to say it's all putting too much pressure on myself because I've just lost complete confidence in the news. I want to start off by saying that the Sean Hannity segment with Nancy Grace was pretty funny. And Sean, the way you came back on that, her being upset, I don't expect Nancy Grace to be on the Sean Hannity show anytime soon. But Sean, you did handle that very professionally. And also on such a serious case with such importance and magnitude, I have to admit, Sean, you were on a level on your own versus all the other peoples that I was able to tune into early in the day. Some I was not able to tune in, so I'm not going to compare and contrast broadcasts. But Sean, you did an excellent job giving us the information. But two things. Tucker, there was no reason to get upset at Ed when he was the only person on your network that brought up that the man was already cuffed. It just seems like you guys want to back up the officer in this case so much when it was a blatant use of force, and we need to address that issue. I'm not going to talk about the solutions on this take because, of course, Nancy Grace has all the credentials, but she hasn't been able to produce a book that's going to solve this issue in itself that I think I've already produced, and I'm not going to get the time of day. So the way I look at it, I'm not going to say I don't care, but like I said, you guys only promote the people you want to promote and give the promotions that you want to give promotions to, and they don't have the publications of the importance to actually solve these 1 and 2 issues. Not even in 50 pages what they would do or what they think. And that's the problem with all issues, all national issues, starting with that issue, the infrastructure issue. They want to spend $1 trillion on infrastructure, but they have no idea on what kind of infrastructure, on how to build, because they don't even have the mindset of the technology to solve these kinds of problems because they're stuck on stupid. AOC saying that this case wasn't fair. It was more than fair. But you guys didn't have to invade or interfere in the case. You had 3 politicians constantly interfering in this case. And like I said, this case should have never gone to trial if the prior justice would have allowed the plea to occur, and then the defendant would have taken the plea, and then the sentencing would have been 1/3 of what he's ended up going to have. And then none of those protests would have happened because there would have never been a trial. What I think should happen, and I'm going to give you one freebie on this. I don't need to produce a book to solve this issue, but I could solve this issue in this take if I want. I've already produced it, written it, talked about it. You guys could put it all together and do it on your own. I'm not going to let you make money on my ideas anymore because I'm just sick and tired of it. But the one solution that I could give you for free is I think the police should have their own police trials on these kinds of cases. Meaning, when an officer does use excessive force after there's a trial or a plea and he has his own civil trial like we saw, that the police have their own trial. That way, that protects their own integrity, and that it shows that they don't stand for that kind of crap. But what I don't understand is the policing in our community would just not allow that. And I've never seen anything like that. We do have situations in Orange County. It's not like Los Angeles County. But once the man is cuffed, that's it. There is no threat. And if he needs medical attention, you rush to get him a paramedic. You don't put your knee on a man for 10 minutes. You guys totally deflected this issue that I wanted to cover because I think it is an important issue. It's not a color issue because it happens to people of non-color. But you guys have totally ruined the issue itself by the way you've mismanaged it in the media, especially MSNBC. I understand that it does happen a lot with people with color, and it's something that does need to be looked at. If those people are acting in prejudice, I agree 100%. But that's why you need to have a police commission on top of the police to protect the integrity, to make sure that that doesn't happen. Because if what you guys are saying is happening, and if it is happening, then there's a lot more serious issues happening that we're not being told. And I wouldn't say it's a national crisis, but it could be crises in certain communities. But I just don't think without the actual evidence you can go that route. But it does need to be looked at. But what you guys have done was you created a vice versa, changing the actual importance of what happened. None of you guys talked about the man is cuffed, and that's it. That's it. That's it. There's nothing else. Once the man is cuffed, that's it. If there's excessive force after the man is cuffed, that's actual first degree, in my opinion. But of course, none of the media was going to go and to talk about that. But of course, the other media would have jumped on that. But nobody had the brains enough to put a report together to use that argument strong enough. Once he's cuffed, that's it. He's defenseless. You don't need to put your knee on the man's neck for 10 minutes saying he's resisting when he's already cuffed, when he's unable to resist. Get him a paramedic, you piece of shit. What was good about this was our system showed that it worked without the influence. And he ends up in cuffs himself. However, that trial should have never happened if the prior justice would have not interfered and allowed a plea bargain to occur, and none of this day would have even happened. I'm not sure if some of this is given so media can have airtime, or we can have these angry distractions and protests, but there's three things that I'm very want to question about this entire case itself, because I know you guys idea share. I know this whole thing switched when you guys knew, when I was gleaming that we were winning and we were going to win again, is when you guys pulled the stunt of COVID and this emergency. How are people still getting COVID now, a year and a half after the Wuhan lab incident? How are people still getting COVID after a year and a half, with all the 15 days, with all the lockdowns, with all the measures? That means something else is causing COVID, or you're allowing people to come in with COVID when they're getting it late in the game undetected. There's only one of two things. How are people getting COVID a year and a half after the Wuhan lab incident? Means something else is causing COVID. Something else. You need to start looking at that. 1, 2, and 3. The man is cuffed. That's it. You don't need to put your knee on a man's neck when he's already cuffed. What are you doing? Taking selfies when those guys, pedestrians, are telling you to get off? I mean, what is this? Honestly, that just doesn't make sense to me. In some shit city with the policeman putting his knee on a man's neck when he's already cuffed makes no sense to me. And it makes no sense that he's even has a trial when he should have been offered a plea. He would have taken the lesser one. There would have never been a trial. There never would have been Al Sharpton. There never would have been Brian Williams. There never would have been coverage. That's why I didn't want to watch TV today or yesterday. That's why yesterday I didn't watch any coverage. And that's why today I watched it at the end of the night. But watching it at the end of the night, I'm going to leave the take right there. It looks like my news just switched. And out of respect for this broadcast, I'm going to leave the take right there. YouTube.com, Jamestown, California.